On guys, getting in the green. We got UFC Fight Night, Santos versus Walker for you guys. So let's dive into this analysis here.
Yeah, we got a great card. Like we mentioned in the preview, definitely back to a fight night versus a pay-per-view. There's probably some names you don't necessarily recognize. There are some really, really good fights on here. Some tough calls from a competitive standpoint, but I'm looking at some absolute brawls. So let's get started. First fight of the night, Alejandro Perez versus Johnny Eduardo. We got Perez coming in at a minus 230. Eduardo coming in at a plus 190. DraftKings. Perez is actually pretty expensive considering he's only minus 230. He comes in at 9,100. Get Eduardo on the back end, 7,100. What are your thoughts on this one, Corey?
Yeah, I got Perez winning a decision here. Eduardo's a slick veteran. Actually looked pretty good in his last fight. But, I mean, even that fight was 3 years ago.
Yep.
Both these guys are coming off a pretty long layoff, so I think you're going to see some ring rust on each side of this. I just don't know what Eduardo's got left. I don't see him taking Perez down and getting any kind of submission going here. So I think it stands up. Perez out-volumes him, out-points him. But I think Eduardo's slick enough, and he's a veteran. He's crafty. I don't think he gets caught in any kind of early knockout. He's not going to get in a firefight in the middle with this guy. So I got Perez by decision. I don't really have him making value on DraftKings because of it. But I think he cruises to a pretty easy win here.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going to take Perez by decision as well. This one for me comes down to youth, really. Eduardo is clearly older at the end of his career, long layoff. It's just, it's not rocket science here. I'm not expecting, even when you watch tape on Johnny Eduardo, it's hard to assume that that's even how he's going to look here. He is definitely at the twilight of his career. I think Perez is just a younger, fresher, faster, more athletic fighter. Eduardo does pack a punch, known as a jiu-jitsu guy, but he has had some impressive knockouts in his career. So, I mean, it's not something I'm overly confident in, but definitely feel like the odds are stacked in Perez's favor here, being the better athlete, younger, fresher. I'm going with Perez by decision.
All right, moving on, we've got Stephanie Egger versus Shanna Young. This is an interesting fight.
It's a close fight. So minus 140 for Egger, plus 120 for Shanna Young, and we are getting them at 8,200 and 8,000 for Young.
Real close fight. Shanna Young kind of got short end of the stick in her debut. She took a short notice fight against Chiasson, who's later on this card. It was in the altitude. She looked good in the first round. Striking was good. Kicks were good. And then she absolutely gassed.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, when Chiasson got her in the Muay Thai clinch, she couldn't get out of it. She just wore knees to the body for the first round.
Yeah.
She's got some pretty bad losses on her regional record. I think she had a loss to Sarah Alpar. Choked out by Miranda Maverick, I believe, which isn't a bad loss, but still notable. She's just not that good anywhere, where I feel like Egger, on the other end, is not a good striker, but has a really decorated grappling judo background. I think she will be able to take this thing to the ground.
Yep.
And kind of grind out a decision here.
That's where I'm at. It is a close fight. Neither are overly impressive. Egger still young in her career, 5-2. Shanna Young, 8-4. So it's not a wealth of experience here. Very clear though, Young's going to want to keep this fight standing. Probably wins if she can do that. Egger's going to want to get this to the ground. If she does that, she's going to win. It's pretty straightforward here. Normally in these situations, I lean towards the grappler. That's just how I feel like most of these fights go down. I think Egger will get her down. I actually think she can get a submission too. I'm gonna guess for a round 2 or round 3 submission from Egger. Close fight though, like we said. Don't feel overly confident. I'd probably play a little bit of Egger on DraftKings. She's 8,200. If you think she can get the submission, she's a decent play. Otherwise, if you don't think she can get the submission, or if you think it's going to stay standing, there's a chance Young could get the KO. But if you don't think submission's coming, I think it's probably going to be a little bit of a slower fight. I don't know how how much I'm going to play it. I'll have some of it just in case, especially for that submission.
Yeah.
All right, next fight. We have Douglas Silva de Andrade versus Gaetano Pirrello. And we got de Andrade coming in at minus 240 to Gaetano at plus 200. This is a great fight. This is a really, really good fight. Striker's delight here. You're definitely going to want to watch. You got two guys that absolutely, throw hands, especially if you're looking at Silva de Andrade. First off, let me just say I'm taking Silva de Andrade versus first round knockout here. The guy just throws. First off, he's an A-level athlete, really is high-level athlete, and he just throws with intense, serious
He's got
power.
Serious power advantage here.
Exactly. I do want to give a shout out to Pirrello here because I feel like a lot of people are going to ultimately be picking de Andrade in this fight, and rightfully so. I do agree. I think Pirrello is getting a little bit underrated, and I dare say that he's maybe the more technical striker. He is a good striker, and he has a very technical striking background. I just think it's going to be a difference of a power. They're going to trade punches. You're going to get hit, and I think de Andrade is just that much more powerful, that much quicker, that much of a better athlete. That's how I see that one finishing. For me, I think the odds are pretty correct there at minus 240. I don't hate him as a parlay piece there. I don't know if I'm going to pound that line straight up because I do think it's pretty spot on, but definitely a parlay recommendation there. And then DraftKings, you are going to pay up for him, but if you think the finish is coming like we do, probably going to be worth it. He's at 9,200. You get Pirrello at 7,000.
Yeah, I'm on Andrade here too. I don't necessarily know if he can get him out of there. Pirrello, I mean, obviously, again, another guy that just got thrown into a firefight in the UFC. Short notice against Ricky Simone. Wasn't able to get off any kind of striking. Got taken down and just grapple fucked for 3 rounds.
Exactly.
So we didn't get to see him. But if you go back to his regional footage, great knees, great elbows.
Yeah.
But he's giving up a serious speed disadvantage here in this fight. I think he is durable, though. I think he's tough. I think we're going to have a good fight in the first round, and then I think Pirrello's going to gas, and we'll see Andrade kind of pour it on. I could definitely see a round 2, round 3 finish here. But I'm going to go Andrade by decision, but a very dominant decision.
And I will like to add in just a good fact you brought up about the Simone fight in his first fight. Another thing that makes me more comfortable picking Andrade here is if shit hits the fan and chaos happens, I still think Andrade does have a grappling advantage.
Oh, definitely. It's not his go-to ever, but
if he gets in trouble, he will be able to get a takedown. I'm not saying he's going to be as dominant as Simone was with it, but he will be able to have that as a lifeline to bail him out if he gets into any trouble, which makes me a little more comfortable even with that pick.
All right. Let's move on. We got Devontae Smith versus Jamie Mullarkey. I know a lot of people are split on this fight, and
yeah,
I think even us, I think we're ended up on the same side of this, but
gone back and forth quite a bit.
I'm a little heavier on Devontae Smith than you are.
Yeah, definitely.
I think this guy is a legitimate prospect, and I think we haven't really fully got to see his evolution as an MMA fighter because he's either been finishing people in the first round or getting finished in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
He went to the second against James, but look, he got caught once, and he got caught good. Knocked out by Karma.
Karma worthy, yep.
Good fight. This guy's just, he reminds me of like a little Kevin Holland-esque, where it's just like, this guy's striking is so explosive and unorthodox. He's not going to stand there and box with you. He's throwing crazy stuff out there, but he's deadly when he hits.
Yep.
Jamie Mullarkey is a punching bag, but he's a very tough punching bag. Yeah. And he knocked out Karma Worthy, which I don't see happening here, even though he does have some power. But his path to victory here would be a grind-out victory. I just think Smith catches him, man. I don't think he moves well enough, and I think people are underestimating Devontae Smith's KO power here. On the other side of it, though, if we get out of the first round and Smith hasn't landed anything big yet, yeah, Mullarkey's live for a grind-out decision victory here, especially if he can get his wrestling going.
Yeah, I think this fight is a lot closer than it appears. I do have Smith winning, ultimately. I'm going to pick Smith. I think it's going to be a decision. I think it's going to be one of those Smith's dominant. Honestly, it's going to remind me of, which we'll have later on this fight, but this fight could remind me of like Nico Price versus Michel Pereira, where, Pereira did win a decision, was dominant until he wasn't dominant, and he has some scary moments in round 3.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I see this fight going. Jamie Mullarkey does get hit. He can be a punching bag defensively, but he does have legitimate offensive striking. He causes damage. He throws volume. I'm not going to say he's a better striker than Devontae Smith, but he's tougher than Devontae Smith for sure. He's tougher, and he does throw hard. He can punish you to take one to give one if he's tougher than you. So wouldn't blow my mind. I do see a path of Mullarkey getting a finish even early if he just gets into a firefight and is more durable. It's possible. But I do think Smith has more athletic gifts. He does throw harder, probably is the better striker. An X factor here, a big X factor here, is going to be the grappling. And I don't think it'll have a huge effect in round 1, but can Mullarkey put a pace on him and get a takedown in round 2, round 3, and steal rounds? It's possible. It's possible. A lot of unknowns in this fight. We didn't even say the odds here. It's minus 150 to plus 125, so the odds makers agree with us. It's a close fight. Devontae Smith is slightly favored. Smith you can get on DraftKings. What do we got Smith at? We got him at 8,700. And then Mullarkey is a pretty good deal. You can get him down at 7,500. So, really close fight. I am ultimately picking Smith. I'm going to go decision. But Mullarkey is a live dog. Definitely not betting this fight personally. DraftKings, I like this fight. I like this fight because there's a lot of outcomes that are positive for DraftKings. There's an early finish. That's a good DraftKings play. Devontae Smith, he's not overly expensive. He's 8,700. And I could see even Mullarkey getting an early finish, so they score there. I could see a decision where there's a lot of volume being thrown and a knockdown and this and that, and maybe Mullarkey's too tough for his own good, but Smith's putting a beating on him. That's going to score. I could see Mullarkey taking over, getting grappling involved. That's going to score. So I like this fight generally. Both are pretty affordable for what I think they can score. Smith's obviously the favorite. It's the pick that we both have here, so he's not a bad play at 8,700. He's not like he's in the 9,000s, and he could be one of the top scorers. And then if you want to take an underdog to make your lineup work, Mullarkey's very live at that 7,500.
Yep. All right, let's move on. We've got Beth Correia versus Carol Rosa.
This is not going to be a competitive fight. So
no, this is one of the biggest. I mean, we got Rosa coming in at minus 550 right now.
Yep.
And we got Correia plus 400. DraftKings, I believe Rosa's the second highest fighter.
So Rosa, let's see, you got
9,400.
Rosa's at 9,300. Beth's one of the cheapest at 6,900.
Look, I'll have no Beth on this. Rosa's gonna absolutely ragdoll her. She scores in her wins too, over 100 both her fights. I mean, she is just a much more physical, aggressive, technical. I mean, she's got her beat.
She's pretty
everywhere.
relentless too. Yeah,
she's relentless. She's got her beat everywhere. The grappling, the wrestling, she's just a better fighter.
Yeah.
Beth is tough, which I think will help with the scoring even more because she might not go out immediately.
Yeah.
But she's going to get grinded out in a win here.
Yeah, and I mean, like most hardcore MMA fans, like I'm sure when you think of Beth Correia, you think of her build-up and her fight with Ronda Rousey. And honestly, when I was looking at this, I couldn't believe that Beth was even still in the UFC. I didn't even know she was... Like, I did know she was still fighting, but when I saw the name, I was like, man, I feel like she's been a girl that looks like she was going to get cut from the UFC 5 to 10 years ago. So, this is her last fight. This is her retirement fight. But they did her no favors here with Rosa. This was not an easy send-off into the sunset. This was a tough fight. There's going to be one-way traffic. Rosa's just better everywhere. She's more athletic. Beth was never specifically athletic. She was always very tough. She had a little bit of underrated boxing, but she's always been really slow, even for women's MMA, seemed to be a bad athlete. She was strong, but she was slow, unathletic. It's going to do her no favors in this fight. We love Rosa straight up. We think she's a great play on DraftKings, especially, women's MMA. They do score significant strikes. They're a lot friendlier with how they score significant strikes, so there could be a lot of strikes landed in this. I like her as one of the heavy favorites on this card. We do like her for a bet. Obviously, we said her normal odds are minus 550. There's a lot of value in this bet. There's Rosa minus 3.5, so you're playing her handicap, either a finish or that she wins by more than 3.5 on the scorecards. You can get her all the way down to minus 180.
Yeah.
That is a play of the night. Unless you disagree with us and think Beth can win around here, we think Rosa's either going to easily get a finish or dominate all 3 rounds. So getting a favorite like that at minus 180, there's a lot of value there. We're going to be pounding that line at minus 180. It's a great line. And DraftKings, again, I'm not going to play any Beth. If Beth somehow stole 2 rounds, she's not scoring well. I'll have 0 Beth. I'm going to have a lot of Rosa.
Yeah. All right, the next one, we're split here. We've got Antonina Shevchenko versus Casey O'Neill. This is the older sister here, so I know we just got to watch Valentina go to work, but look, so we got plus 180 on Shevchenko, minus 220 on Casey O'Neill. So the odds makers are definitely on this Casey O'Neill hype train. So I know you're with them a little bit. So if you want
I think it's closer than it wasn't like an easy pick, but I do think. Let me just put this out there first. Antonina Shevchenko is not Valentina Shevchenko. I don't think anyone would debate that to begin with, but even still, this isn't a slightly underdeveloped Valentina. They're not in the same realm of skill sets. So treat her as her own individual fighter. What do we have? We have a pretty decent MMA striker with what seems to be not UFC caliber at all grappling. That's kind of what we've seen out of her. So relatively athletic, pretty strong, but really underwhelmed. So I went back and forth because I do think she's physical. I do think she's a good striker. I think she could win standing. Ultimately, the game script here, the game plan is just so obvious for how you win. You get Shevchenko on her back, and good things are going to happen to you. You're either going to ground and pound her, or you're going to submit her, or you're just going to keep taking her down. And now, granted, that is easier said than done because she is powerful. But once she gets on her back, she's offering nothing. I thought she turned a corner, and I think it was the Lipsky fight that she dominated, went on top, had a grappling-heavy game plan. And I thought, maybe she is improving. Then she comes back in her next fight with Lee and just gets annihilated on the ground. So after back and forth, because I do think Shevchenko is a physically athletic and talented striker. O'Neill's a prospect. She's athletic. She is young, and I think she's smart enough to know where her advantage is here. I don't think she might struggle at first, but ultimately, if O'Neill can get this fight to the ground, she has good enough jiu-jitsu for sure. She's a good enough grappler to keep her there and possibly submit her. Maybe round 1 it doesn't look pretty. Maybe she struggles. I think she gets this fight to the ground, and it's going to be a wrap. So I'm going to take a round 3 submission for Casey O'Neill, although a decision wouldn't surprise me. I am going to take Casey O'Neill. I'm going to pick grappling, and as you've seen as a recurring theme for me on these podcasts, I don't always pick against it, but generally if you have a pretty close fight and someone's a grappler or has a grappling advantage over a striking advantage, I tend to lean grappling. So I'm going to take Casey O'Neill.
All right, so I'm taking Shevchenko here. I think she wins a striking match, and I think she's levels above O'Neill on the feet. On a technical standpoint, she doesn't have the power. She's very lanky. And that's what she lacks that Valentina has. She doesn't have knockout power. She's not going to put you out. Mm-hmm. O'Neill isn't really a grappler. Like, I know she got into it with Procopio, and she was able to hold her down and get that ground and pound going, and Dodson at the end. But That's not her MO. She wants to strike. Now, she's used ultra aggressiveness, which can take you really far in women's MMA. She's athletic, ultra aggressive. I think that plays against her here. I think she gets counterstruck. I think she gets her legs pieced up. Now, if she does take this to the ground, that's her path to victory. I think she ground and pound. She'll get a knockout. She's a little chinny. I know she's 7-0 as a pro, but I think amateur, I'd have to double check this. I think she got flash KO'd twice in the first minute in her amateur career. That's like unheard of at this weight class for women. Yeah, I got her losing a decision. However, with that being said, DraftKings, I'll be playing much more O'Neal than Shevchenko, even though she costs more. O'Neal's path to victory is a very high-scoring ground and pound, relentless pressure.
O'Neal will dominate if she wins.
Yes, 100%. And Shevchenko's win is a pointed-out decision to me. So I'm not going to play that much of her. She's not going to score that much in her victory. So I'll be going O'Neal on DraftKings, but my pick is Shevchenko. I'm taking the dog here.
Yeah, I got O'Neal. I'm playing quite a bit of her on DraftKings. She comes in at 9,000, whereas Shevchenko you can get at 7,200. So a decent dog at 7,200. Again, if you need to make your lineups work, I'm going much heavier on O'Neal. In O'Neal's 2 victories in the UFC, she scored 139.6 and 109.7. So if she wins, like we said, she's going to score. But yeah, again, I'm not overly confident I'm not recommending a bet on this fight like I've seen a lot of other analysts do. I do see the path, and either way, you have a 7-0 fighter. You haven't seen her against top-level competition. You don't know how everything's going to translate. I've just been unimpressed with Shevchenko against some of the competition that I thought she was. I've been burned by her before. Let me just put it that way. I thought she was taking steps forward, and she hasn't. She still has this glaring weakness in her game. So that's why I'm going with O'Neal. But DraftKings, we like the plays. Stay away from a bet.
Yeah.
Next fight, it's a great fight. We got Joe Solecki versus Jared Gordon. And hell of a scrap here. You have Solecki coming in as a slight favorite here, minus 135. Jared Gordon, you can get it at plus 115. Yeah, Corey, I know you have a strong opinion on this fight, so how about you go first?
Yeah, I am all in on Jared Gordon. I'm shocked that he's the dog here. Look, I'm not a Joe. I think Solecki's a legitimate fighter here. His jiu-jitsu is very good. What we saw in the Jim Miller fight, though, is when he's put on his back and he goes into guard, he's got nothing.
Gordon's even too comfortable, you know?
He didn't even attempt to
no
get up. He got held
urgency.
down for 3 minutes.
That's a jiu-jitsu thing, where, jiu-jitsu scored where it's not necessarily a bad thing to be on your back.
Yeah.
And if you're a comfortable jiu-jitsu practitioner, you don't hate that. But in MMA, you're losing rounds. You need to have some urgency to either go for submission or get up.
Rounds 2 and 3, he ends up taking advantage of the fact that Jim Miller gassed. Jared Gordon will not gas.
No.
This guy is a workhorse.
Yep.
Great offensive wrestling. He's going to get on top of Solecki, and he's gonna grind him out. He's going to break him. I will say, Gordon has good jiu-jitsu as well. So if he does, he's not going to get himself in some position where he's getting submitted from the bottom.
Yeah.
I've seen him get his back taken. He fights the hands and hooks very well. He's not going to go out there and get submitted by Joe Solecki, I don't think. And if Solecki can't pull off a submission, I think Gordon has the advantage on the feet. And I think he goes into the wrestling, grinds out a decision here. He's a big play for me on DraftKings because I think he's going to rack up points.
And DraftKings,
and he's super cheap.
You got Solecki at 8,300. You get Gordon at 7,900.
Yeah.
All right, so I am picking Gordon as well. So great DraftKings play for me, 7,900. I do agree. He is the better wrestler. He's super aggressive. Striking, it's hard to tell. I'm going to give Gordon the advantage, but more from a pure aggression. They're both not amazing strikers. I do think you win rounds, though, by being the aggressor. So Gordon could absolutely win this fight standing. The only concern I have is Solecki is a legitimate jiu-jitsu practitioner. So Gordon has sometimes is like a little bit reckless, and I don't want to say reckless in a bad way. It's part of his game plan. He puts the pace on someone. He puts the pressure on someone. I do think he needs to be careful with his takedowns to keep them clean, keep them positionally intelligent about when he's going for them, plan them, push against the cage, grind. I do think if he goes in for sloppy takedowns, he could end up on the bottom in a scramble. That's what scares me. That's where I think I could see a path to victory for Solecki. I could see him winning these grappling exchanges, especially if it's just chaos, as opposed to if Gordon is really calculated, wants to be on top, doesn't get too over-aggressive to where, he's trying to immediately go for the finish and maybe be careless and get a sweep. I think he should comfortably win. He should win just by positioning and aggressiveness alone and takedowns. He could win. I do see a path, I think a little more than Corey does, of Solecki just making this a grappling match, a scrambling match, where he could come out on advantageous positions. So I see why Solecki... I am surprised that Solecki's favorite. I see more paths to victory for Gordon, but not 100% sold on it. I'm taking Gordon by decision. I do like him as a dog, even with me saying that I'm not convinced. I still do like the bet on Gordon because I know Corey's heavy on the bet, just straight up at Gordon at plus 115. I don't mind that bet. I'm not going to be throwing too heavy. I'll place a bet on that, but I'm a little more cautious on it. But I think Gordon has more ways to win, and it should be a really fun fight. And, even the Jim Miller fight, pre-Jim Miller gassing, it was a fun fight. It was a fun grappling match. I think you're going to probably see something similar in terms of just if you like grappling and nonstop action, I think you're going to like this fight. I think there's going to be sweeps. There's going to be action from the bottom. They're not just going to be laying on each other. There will be a lot of action going on the ground.
Yeah, it's a great fight. It's headlining the prelims. It's just going to be a good fight altogether, though.
Yep.
All right, let's move into the main card here. We've got Alexander the Great Hernandez versus Mike Breeden. Mike Breeden taking a short notice spot is here.
Yeah, this is props to Mike Breeden for stepping up, taking this fight. But this is one of those unfortunate. Alex Hernandez, not a absolute world beater, but he's a legitimate top 15 guy. Really great fighter. Getting a short notice fight here. The odds really tell us he's minus 550. Mike Breeden's plus 400. I don't want to overanalyze this one. This should be one-way traffic. Hernandez is the more athletic guy. He's a significantly better wrestler, which is kind of his bread and butter. And in the last couple of years, we've really seen Hernandez's striking improve quite a bit, and he packs a serious punch. I'm going to say that Hernandez actually gets him out of here first round. I'm going to pick a first-round KO/TKO. Either I could see him just flash KOing him standing. He's very athletic, very powerful. Or I could see just the wrestling TKO there. So very comfortably going with Hernandez here. And I don't see much that Breeden's bringing to the table here other than congrats for stepping up.
Yeah, he lost on the Contender Series. And I say Breeden's one of those guys that's very well-rounded. I'd say he has, B-level everything on the regional seed. But when you bring that up into the UFC, you're more looking at a C-D kind of fighter.
Yep.
He's going to get dominated here. We are loading up on the Hernandez handicap bet.
Yeah, let me pull that up. So you can get Hernandez at minus 3.5, which I do think is valuable here because I'm picking Hernandez to get the finish. Wouldn't surprise me one bit if he grinded out a three-round decision. So you can get Hernandez at minus 3.5 at minus 275. Pretty good value for the biggest favorite on the card at minus 550. Yeah. Again, this is MMA. Things can happen. But I really like these bets because if Hernandez loses this fight, I see him getting caught. I see something weird happening where you lose your bet either way, whether you bet on him or not. If nothing funky happens,
he wins this fight.
He's not losing a round to this guy. So I like these bets. You cut the betting line in half when you bet this way. Be selective with how you bet these, but yeah, that's a great bet. I feel like it's the same as betting Hernandez straight up here, and you're getting half the line. So
yeah, so not much there. Hernandez, great play, most expensive fighter on DraftKings, 9,400. Breeden all the way down at 6,800.
Cheapest fighter.
Won't be touching any Breeden.
No.
I'll play some Hernandez. Like, if he doesn't get an early KO, though, he might struggle to make value.
Yeah.
But he's got a cakewalk here. There's no reason he shouldn't just go to work. Definitely get him
In
for some
general,
items.
Hernandez has been a little underwhelming in DraftKings scoring. And I will say it's due to when his grappling works, he can settle with positions. He's not necessarily a non-stop ground and pounder or volume guy. I've seen him do cage work where you're I don't want to call it wall installing, but you are battling for position on the cage for 2 minutes before you get a takedown. Stuff like that happens. So sometimes he doesn't make value. I'm definitely playing some Hernandez. He will be a play. Obviously, he's got a great fight here. He could absolutely make value, but he's not a must play at 9,400, which will, if you play him, it's going to greatly alter what you can do with your lineup, and he may not make value as the most expensive fighter.
Cash, though, easy.
Yes.
Easy money right there for cash. So, all right, let's move on. We got a little more of a competitive fight here. We got Aspen Ladd versus Macy Chiasson. This is a good fight. This is a stylistic matchup. I got Ladd here, and I know she's the favorite.
Yep. She's coming in at minus 280 to Chiasson's plus 230.
Chiasson's very green. Her striking, her Muay Thai is good. She's long. Ladd's aggressive, though. Ladd, I don't even think has a deficiency here in the striking, and when she does grapple, she's going to dominate.
Yeah.
This is just, look, if Chiasson could keep this at distance, she'd have a shot to outpoint her, but I don't see it happening. I see Ladd imposing her will, taking her down and kind of getting to work in that grappling realm.
I like Ladd a lot here. Pretty similar to what Corey said, where the reason you like her even more is, okay, if she gets the takedown, which Chiasson has shown some really poor takedown defense in a couple fights here, she's going to cruise. But even if plan A doesn't work, she doesn't necessarily lose standing, which is makes her even more valuable to me. It's not a one-trick pony type. She's definitely more athletic, very physical. And yeah, I think she takes this fight to the ground and she dominates. But if she doesn't, we're in for a competitive fight that she could absolutely still win. I like her. DraftKings, she does come in a little heavy. She's at 8,900 to Chiasson 7,300. So they are heavy on her. I like her. I'm going to play some of her there, especially if she gets the grappling going. I think she could score well. Not a must play for me, but a good one. For her line, I don't hate a bet on her. I don't hate a parlay on her. I do think she's priced correctly. Yeah. She's a minus 280 favorite. That's about where she should be, minus 280, minus 300. Like her as a parlay piece. Don't necessarily like her handicap. Wouldn't shock me if she loses round one or something, or loses a round in general. But she should come out on top here. So yeah, if you like her or agree with us, maybe even like her a little more than we do, better straight up, get a parlay with her. We definitely support that. Not a must play for us, and I don't think we're going to hit it too heavy on the straight line.
Yep. All right, moving on, and this is kind of our dog of the day here.
Mm-hmm.
We got Misha Cirkunov versus Jotko. I'm not going to attempt his first name.
It's Christoph.
Christoph Jotko. So we got plus 125 on Cirkunov, minus 150 on Jotko.
This is interesting. It's interesting. A lot of factors here.
Cirkunov's dropping weight.
Going to 185. So, yeah, Cirkunov, which the weigh-ins are probably happening right now, but Cirkunov's a big dude, really big dude. So, there is an X factor there of, A, is he going to be huge for this division, have a nice clean weight cut, and make us look even smarter? Because I think skill for skill, I still like Cirkunov, but if he's going to have a size and strength advantage, I love him.
Yeah.
Or are we going to have a drained, brutal weight cut Cirkunov? Could make us look dumb here. So that is an X factor to consider.
Yeah, you definitely want to see how he's looking.
But skill set for skill set, yeah, I like Cirkunov all day here. Jotko is kind of, don't want to diss the guy, but it's like kind of an average guy everywhere. He's probably prefers striking, but is not even such an incredible striker. Has a decent jab, is active, doesn't really have that one-shot KO power. It's not that he can't knock someone out, but doesn't have scary power. Cirkunov has shown some pretty serious power. Super strong athletic guy, and I think Cirkunov has a significant advantage on the ground. I think He's going to be smart to take it here. And Cirkunov has some legitimate submissions over some really top guys at light heavyweight. And if he can get this to the ground, which I think he can, I like Cirkunov by submission. I think around 2 submissions my pick. And I like him straight up to win. And I don't think he's screwed if the fight stays standing either. He's had some knockouts at light heavyweight. It's probably one of the reasons he's coming down to not deal with as much power.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have bad striking. He's tough as hell. He has been a little chinny recently, but when he's not knocked straight unconscious, tough, strong fighter. And I like him to get this to the ground ultimately, and I think he wins.
Yeah, I think he dominates a grappling match here.
Yep.
Also, I mean, if this guy pulls off making weight, he was a big 205er.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
This guy's going to be an absolute monster at 185.
Exactly.
Jotko, on the other hand, like, God, the Strickland fight was, like, you just didn't show anything.
It was a boring...
You backed up for rounds of just...
Jabs.
and
you were on the receiving end of that jab.
Over it, and just made no movement, no attempt to try and win that fight.
And another thing that I just want to point out real quick that concerned me, and maybe this is just key to the moment, Jotko thought he won that fight at the end of that fight.
Yeah.
And that makes me even question a fighter's IQ even more of,
what
do you even know what's going on here? There was no chance you won that fight.
No. It wasn't even close.
Yes.
He's okay. Cirkunov's going to be way bigger. I think he gets a hold of him. I do like him by submission. Round 2 sounds like a good spot for that. But either way, Cirkunov on DraftKings is coming in at...
Yeah, you got him at 7,600.
Must play.
And Jotko comes in at 8,600. So, yeah.
Not playing him.
No. No. The same thing. Like, if Jotko wins, sure, could he get a KO? It's possible, but...
Most likely it's a decision
most likely he...
behind the jab.
It's a, you stop the takedowns and you won a kind of boring striking match. So I don't think you're going to make value there. If Cirkunov wins, he's going to dominate takedowns, possibly a submission, like we said, or just a dominant win, and you're getting him at 7,600. Great odds. He's a must-play for us. He's our dog of the day at DraftKings. We like him straight up at plus 125. It's a great bet. This one I'm not telling you have to bet, but I'm doing it, and it's more of a gut feeling. Cirkunov by submission, you get plus 330.
Yeah.
Plus 330 for the method that I think is going to end the fight. So I'm definitely going to be betting on that. I'm not saying pound the line. It is safer to take him straight up, and you're still getting value at that plus 125. But if you're in agreement with me, if you see that path to victory, I think it's great value at plus 330, especially with the most likely method of victory for me, how I see the fight playing. I'm gonna lay a decent bet on that one. All right, next fight. I think we probably got. There's a couple of options for fight of the night, but this one might be my number one pick for fight of the night. Alex Oliveira versus Nico Price. Nico Price, you get in as a moderate favorite at minus 170 to Alex Oliveira's plus 145. So this is a close fight, and there's a lot of just wacky. These guys have had some tough fights to judge. When they look good, they look amazing. When they look bad, they look really bad.
Yeah.
That's what goes for both of them. What do we know? I'm just going to break this down in simplest terms. They both are Jekyll and Hyde in terms of some of their performances, but what are they known for? Price is known for a tough SOB that doesn't quit. Oliveira, known for a guy that kind of breaks when the going gets tough. It is as simple as that for me, because I think this is a really hard fight to break down. Personally, and this is not any insult to Price, I think Oliveira is the more talented fighter. I think he is getting a little bit older, a little bit slower, a little bit less explosive. He was a guy who always relied a lot on his athleticism and explosiveness. So he's losing a little bit of that, and we've seen that. He's not as much of a threat. But he's a guy who I think has better striking, technically speaking, has just as much KO power, probably has better wrestling, and fresh, round one, I would say has better grappling. But the key word is round one. So would it surprise me if Oliveira gets the finish in round one? No, it wouldn't, not at all. And do I think maybe Oliveira could be up enough on the scorecards to get a decision? Maybe. Most likely, we have a very competitive round one. Maybe Oliveira wins it. Wouldn't shock me if Price wins it. by the end of round 1, heading into round 2, by mid-round 2, the momentum's very much going to switch into Price's favor. And the way that Oliveira has folded in his last few fights, I like Price to get a finish here. Round 2 or round 3, I guess I will go round 3 just to give him a little more time to break on him. But Price is an absolute warrior. He will not get tired. And he will push the pace. I'm not saying Oliveira gasses in every fight. It's more that Oliveira wilts when the going gets tough. We've seen him in some of his fights. Sabatini fight, which was his last win. He looked great in round 3. And it was because it was a very technical, striking Muay Thai fight where there wasn't a lot of pressure. There wasn't chaos. And it was actually a weird fight for him. He looked very technical. He looked great. I don't think that's going to happen here from Perez, but also from Price. Price isn't going to let that happen. Price is a guy that fights with chaos. He goes, could he walk right into a strike in round 1? He could. I think Price has more ways to win this. This is just one of those, when you look at the strengths and weaknesses, there's just a glaring one on each one, and it falls right into Price's hands. Yeah. So, like Price, I really like this fight on DraftKings because, Price is going to score if he wins, which we think is the most likely because the fight will go a distance, and I think he will dominantly take over towards the end of the fight. If you got Oliveira, you absolutely could get a finish there, and he is a dog. Let's see what we got on DraftKings. We have Price is at 8,400, so still very reasonable for a favorite that will score if he wins. Oliveira on the back end, 7,800. Probably a must-play fight for me. I really see this fight scoring, and I like that price range. It's not even a crazy. You can fit that in almost every card.
Yep.
Going to be playing heavier on Price, but I like it. Definitely will not be placing a bet on this fight.
No.
Even for all the reasons I just mentioned why Price wins, these are two Jekyll and Hyde type fighters. I'm not placing a bet on this fight.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I like Price. I think it's just a volume fight. He's going to throw massive volume here. Mm-hmm. He really impressed me with his toughness in that Michel Pereira fight.
Yep.
Got absolutely beat up for 2 rounds.
Yeah.
And then poured it on in the third. Almost won that fight.
Yeah.
Look, he's tough. He's going to push the pace. I don't think Alex Oliveira's got it anymore to get the knockout in the first. There's not much to say here, man. If Oliveira looks good, he's going to win. If Price pushes the pace, he's going to win here.
Yeah. I think Price just has more ways to win.
Yeah, and I think Price could get it done in the third, but I think most likely this goes the distance. Good fight, though. I like Price on DraftKings a lot at 8,400. I've fit him into most of my lineups at this point. Definitely throwing in some Oliveira's, though. If he gets it done, he will be optimal.
Yep.
But, yeah, again, we're not betting this fight. Morg's just excited to watch it.
Exactly.
Going to have some highlights.
It's going to be one of the absolute fight of the nights on the card.
All right, moving into Kevin Holland versus Kyle Daukaus. Now,
interesting fight.
When I first saw it, my immediate gut reaction was Daukaus all day.
Yeah.
Then I ran the tape.
Known as a grappler.
Yeah, he is known as a grappler. We all know what happened to Holland the last 2 fights.
Yep.
Ran the tape, and Daukaus just isn't an offensive wrestler like Brunson and Vettori were.
Yeah, I agree. He doesn't have the pure wrestling, and I don't think he's... He's weirdly athletic, but he's not the athlete that either of them are either. He's athletic in his own way. It's not like he's unathletic, but he's not explosive. He lacks that explosiveness to finish a double. I will say I think his actual submissions and grappling, it's definitely better than Brunson's, and it's probably better than Vettori's in terms of submissions. Maybe Vettori has better top control and grappling, but there is some concerns. There are some concerns. We've definitely gone back and forth on this, and again, my MO here is if you have a pretty close fight, if somebody has an advantage in the grappling, I usually take that guy. This is a flip-flop. I'm taking Holland here. Yeah, and you know what fight sticks out to me, which, Holland did lose a third, and one judge even had as a draw, but the Stewart fight sticks out to me here. Daniel Stewart. Daniel Stewart is absolutely not a grappler. He's not a strong wrestler, but he's an athletic, strong guy that has grappled in fights and has pretty good top control, actually, when he gets it there. even in his most recent fight at light heavyweight, I don't remember who he just lost to, but he took down a big-ass light heavyweight multiple times. His grappling's not bad. He did get Holland down in the third round, but it wasn't like he took Holland down at will, and Holland pieced him up when it was standing.
Yeah.
It's kind of how I see this fight going. I think Holland could lose a round. I really do. I think Holland doing kind of careless shit because he does wild, wacky strikes. If he gets down, I think he could lose a round, no doubt. I just don't think Daukaus is going to be able to take him down
over and over again.
Exactly. So, dangerous pick. I like Holland, though. Holland will absolutely fuck him up standing.
Yes.
Holland's striking is sick. He's definitely live to get the finish here. The other thing that I think is hurting Daukaus, so at Daukaus' team, Daukaus is actually the striking coach. A lot of people don't know that. He doesn't have a single knockout finish. He has way more submissions. He's the striking and Muay Thai coach. Doesn't have bad striking. He has actually pretty good striking. But in this particular fight, I think that hurts Daukaus because he might be a little too comfortable to strike and set up his grappling as opposed to just being like, this is my path to victory, I need to take it. And that's a dangerous game with Holland.
Holland striking is like next level, too.
It is.
And this line would be minus 300 for Holland if he didn't have
Yes.
those 2 losses in a row.
And they are really, like, I want to give a shout-out to Daukaus here. Man, they're doing that guy no favors
None.
in matchmaking. He's a pretty damn good fighter. And he has fought some really, really tough guys already in the UFC. He's fought Phil Hawes.
His last fight, yep.
What was his first fight?
Allen.
Yeah, Brandon Allen in his very first fight, which is a
Yep.
really tough fight. He looked pretty good in that fight, too. And he didn't look bad in the Hawes fight, even though it ended very badly for him.
The part that scared me in that Hawes fight, though, is you got out-gas-tanked by Phil Hawes.
Yes, that is telling.
I don't know, man. That's pretty brutal for your outtake here. Holland will not gas.
No.
That guy will not stop talking either.
Yeah.
Look, I'm going Holland. I'm going on DraftKings. I think he gets the finish here. But I will say this. I will never place a bet on Kevin Holland again.
No.
That guy doesn't care about winning.
No
I
urgency.
can't back him.
No, so you got the DraftKings, though. You got 8,500 and 7,700. Very close to a must-play for me. Not 100% must-play, but I will be close to 50-50. I might lean 60-40 Holland because I do think Holland's going to win. But I'm playing a lot of Daukaus because Daukaus will score.
His path to victory scores.
He will score if he has a Vittori-like performance here. And I really do think if that path to victory happens, if he's going to keep getting the takedowns, he'll get the submission. I do believe that. He's a better grappler. If he was going to be on top for 15 minutes, he'll find a submission. I don't think he'll be on top for 15 minutes, but he's a great play. And then on the reverse, Holland does throw volume. Holland knocks people out. I like Holland to get the finish probably standing. So either way, it's a great play. Love the play on DraftKings. Absolutely not betting that fight. If you do want to bet it, Holland's minus 165 to Daukaus plus 140. So if you're feeling strong, there's value on either guy. I'm just not going to mess with that one.
All right. Main event time. Thiago Santos versus Johnny Walker.
This is
Tough
a
fight.
really tough fight. First off, from an exciting standpoint, couldn't be more pumped. Especially considering Thiago Santos' last fight was definitely a letdown.
The Rocket
with
fight.
Rokic. Very boring, and Santos is not boring. Santos is not a boring fighter, ever. So to see that, I know it was disappointing that there was little volume. That's not a concern here. Johnny Walker's a wild man.
Yeah.
Whether he wins or loses, we will get to see a great fight.
Yeah, let's just lead off with this fight doesn't go the distance as minus 500.
Yeah, it's a great
And
bet.
we'll be pounding that
Yeah.
line. That is nowhere near high enough.
No, for a 5-rounder with these two guys, it'll absolutely will get a finish here.
So, look, I'm leaning Johnny Walker here. Massive human being, man.
Yeah,
6'6". Huge specimen.
Yep.
He's explosive, as explosive as it gets.
Yep.
And he's going to go for it. Santos, on the other hand, is a very good striker.
Yep.
And loves when the pressure comes to him. It could definitely...
Put people's lights out. No doubt.
Yeah, he's got the power, and his counter-striking is next level. I know you're leaning on the Santos side of things.
Yeah.
I think Walker does something crazy and catches him, but I'd be shocked if this fight left the second round, let alone
Yeah.
goes 25.
Yeah, this is a tough one for me. Thiago Santos is definitely not undersized, but this is a guy that we know has had a long career at 185, has had more success at 205, is one of those guys that looks better when he's not cutting the weight. But yeah, the size disadvantage definitely plays a factor. Johnny Walker's huge, 6'6" to 6'2", has a pretty decent reach advantage, definitely an explosive guy, so there is a concern there. I flip-flopped on this fight. When the fight was first announced, I was on Santos all day long. Then I watched some tape and was like, man, Santos just has not looked like the same guy since he's come back from his knee surgeries in that John Jones fight, which he looked fantastic in. And also, I think he's 38 or 39 now. So
It's coming down.
Yeah, he's definitely coming down. And it's Johnny Walker is absolutely the type of guy that can finish anybody on any given night. He's that explosive. Does wild shit. The Span fight, which was his last fight, he
Gets rocked.
almost gets knocked out, and then out of nowhere lands an elbow on a takedown and knocks Span out cold pretty much. Wild guy. Could absolutely win this fight. And I was actually leaning Walker, and I was he's just too big, too athletic, and it's the trajectory. Not that he's on the best trajectory, but from a physical prime type of thing. Then I switched back, and I was like, you know what? Even a little bit older, slower Santos, he is still way more technical. He just is. Walker is not. Walker has way too shitty of a chin to fight the way he does.
Yeah.
He does. Walker, he gets rocked. He does have heart. We've seen him have heart, but he has a shitty chin. He gets rocked easily, especially considering how hard these light heavyweights punch. And then to fight that reckless and not be very durable, I just don't see it. You know what? Now I'm getting more confident in Santos, especially even as an older Santos. He's been in some wars. He's taken some punishment. He's absolutely been in rock'em sock'em robot fights where you take a huge shot to give a huge shot, and he's stood up to those. He's there, and he likes those. He likes those fights, and I know that Walker will bring that. And then I go back also, Santos didn't look terrible in the Glover fight. I know he lost, and that was grappling. That he lost because he got grapple fucked. But he actually did. He looked just as explosive as he always did, and that was after his surgeries too. So I'm like, maybe I'm putting too much stock into his last fight. And I've switched back to Santos, and I think it's going to come down to durability and technical striking. Walker could absolutely catch him in the first round. It wouldn't even be catching him. Walker could just do what he does and knock him out in the first round because he's a wild man. But I think if this doesn't end on the first 3 exchanges, which it definitely could, I think Santos is going to show that he's the more technical striker with the better timing, with the better chin, and I think he's going to catch him and probably put him out in the second round. And I got Santos there.
Yeah, let's also must-play DraftKings.
Must
Either
play.
way, you're getting a finish here. You're getting,
Yep.
Santos, you're paying up a little bit for, but he's not at the top.
No. He's a little more expensive than I would have hoped considering the odds. So Santos is a minus 160 to Walker's plus 135. Santos is up at 8,800. So I'm still glad he's not in the 9,000s. I was hoping he was at that 86, 85.
Yeah, kind of where Volkanovski was.
Yes. But I'm going to be probably, I'm going to probably be 65%, 65, maybe 70 on Santos. But I'm going to absolutely play 35 Walker. He's a must-play. He's all the way down at 7,400. You can pretty much do whatever you want with that lineup.
Yep.
And he is very live to get that knockout. It wasn't very long ago. I don't know how long everybody here's been watching, but John Jones was at his peak of his powers, and everybody said, there's 2 guys to watch in the light heavyweight division. Dominic Reyes and Johnny Walker. These were the prospects. These were guys that could beat John Jones. It was he's had some unfortunate losses, but the potential is still there. He's still a really athletic, explosive guy with serious knockout power. He's not like a one-hit wonder type. He has legitimate skills. He's great play at 7,400. He could definitely beat Santos. But you got to play them both.
Yeah, definitely. I'll probably be leaning a little more. I'll lean about 60-40 Walker, especially with his price being so cheap. Makes it a lot easier to put some monster cards together. But look, we're gonna get a banger here. Main event. Violence. We're gonna see violence here. The minus 500 fight doesn't go the distance. I know it's chalky. It's a no-brainer here, man.
Yeah.
There's no way. I mean, Walker doesn't have 25 minutes of gas tank.
No. Also, actually, you know what? I'd love to add that to this. One other reason I'm picking Santos, not that I believe this goes the path.
He's got the better.
I do think he's got the better grappling and the better gas tank.
Yeah.
Like, if shit hits the fan again, if you're not one punch KO'd, who do I think, if they're on wobbly legs, has a chance to survive because they sneak a takedown in? Santos 100% has a better chance to do that than Walker does, which helps me make that decision for Santos. So,
all right.